You ready?
Yep.
These are the stories of 6 vacations
What is that? Oh my God! Ah!
that didn't go as planned.
Move it faster!
This was not going to end well.
True stories of UFO encounters.
The fear was so intense. Is this something we can't get out of now?
Actual video and audio recordings.
Come on, get back in the car. We're going. Let's go.
It is painful. Make me scream.
Terrifying accounts of alien abductions.
I believe that they were taking eggs from your ovum.
The Allagash Wilderness Waterway, a 92-mile labyrinth of remote lakes and ponds hidden in the mountains of northern Maine. It's a rigorous trip for even the most seasoned of campers. But for Charlie Foltz, Chuck Rock, and brothers Jim and Jack Wiener, the daunting excursion is the adventure of a lifetime.
The Allagash is not an ordinary camping trip. It's very rigorous.
Would you look at that? Check that out, Charlie. That looks good, man.
This was my first really excursion into the wilderness.
I told you this was going to be worth it.
There's nothing there except trees and water. That's what we wanted. That's what we were looking for.
The 4 art students from Boston are eager to get out of town.
We just wanted to do this trip because it was out in the wilderness. We figured we'd be out of the city for a while.
Who wants a beer?
We just thought this was going to be a regular, fun, camping, fishing trip.
Great fire, Charlie. I'm cutting you off. No way, man. You're cut off.
Just 2 nights into their adventure, Chuck spots something strange in the night sky.
I had a feeling that something very unusual would happen on this trip. I called attention to this light.
And what is it, Chuck?
It had a kind of a reddish glow.
Is that Mars?
No, I don't think we can see Mars right now.
We didn't know what to think. We had no idea what it was. It wasn't making any sound, it wasn't moving, it was just there. We all looked at it, and it was gone.
A few days later, the men are running low on food. They decide to take the canoe out to go night fishing. They build a fire to serve as a beacon to guide them back to the campsite.
We were going to be on the water maybe a couple of 3 hours, and we needed to build a fire that would burn that length of time.
Pretty good. There we go.
And so we started fishing, and we weren't catching anything. All we were getting was eaten alive by mosquitoes. So we're saying, okay, let's move to a different place, you know. So we moved a little further out into the lake.
The men are now several hundred yards from shore when Chuck is overcome by a strange feeling.
And I remember feeling that there was something observing us. It was like having somebody staring at you from behind. I turned my head to look over my right shoulder, and there was this object in the sky, and I could tell right away it was the same object we'd seen 2 nights previously. It was behaving in a very unconventional way.
What is that?
It was just hovering over the trees, just still as a stone. No sound whatsoever. And this thing was huge. It had to be as big in diameter as a tractor-trailer truck.
This was a shocking thing to look at. I knew right away it was a UFO.
Charlie decides to signal the object.
I thought, well, how will it respond if I shine a light at it? So I fired off a fast SOS.
I don't think that was such a good idea.
And the second he got done, this thing started moving right towards us. It was obviously reacting to Charlie's light.
Come on, let's get the hell out of here.
So we started paddling towards our campfire, which was a couple hundred yards away.
A beam of light came out of the bottom and it started coming across the water toward us. It looked like a gigantic glass straw, and you could see that it was transparent.
Let's go!
While I'm paddling with my hand, I'm looking over my shoulder at this thing steadily coming for us. I realized at that point that we weren't going to outrun it. It was going to get us.
I wasn't curious anymore. I was terrified. My only thought, I have to get to that campfire.
Move it faster!
While the others are frantic, Chuck is suddenly entranced by the light.
I wanted the experience to unfold naturally. I just wanted to have the object do whatever it was going to do.
Paddle fast! How the hell did we get back? How the hell did...
Suddenly, the men find themselves back on land at the campsite. They have no recollection of how they got there.
1 minute we're paddling, and the next thing I knew, we were standing on the beach.
And in front of us is this sphere.
I remember standing on the beach, staring at this thing, thinking, my God, I could hit this with a stone.
The sphere began to go away from us.
And everything just like went and disappeared.
The men notice that the campfire they expected to burn for hours is now a pile of embers.
Just a few minutes ago, it seemed like we were paddling towards this fire, and now it's almost out.
From that moment on, the mood shifts dramatically.
We didn't talk about this thing. We didn't talk about being chased across the lake. We didn't talk about what this thing might have been, where it might have come from.
Three years pass, and the four friends are no closer to making sense of their bizarre encounter. As artists, they begin illustrating what they can remember from that fateful night.
We go over it time and time and time again, but we never really get beyond the point of how'd the fire go out.
Eventually, memories from that evening begin to resurface in strange ways.
I started having nightmares, horrible, horrible nightmares of non-human things poking around on me and staring at my face.
For 12 years, Jack is haunted by flashes of memory and nightmares. He decides to undergo regressive hypnosis, a technique to help recover repressed memories. He wants to know once and for all what happened on that traumatizing night in the Allagash wilderness.
All of a sudden, there I was on the Allagash again. When we got to the point of the light coming, I remembered this beam. It completely surrounded the canoe, and it was like a wall of light that had these weird sparkles in it and like smoke.
The others agree to go under hypnosis, and in separate sessions with the therapist, 3 of the 4 men recall shockingly similar memories.
My first conscious memory under regression was looking at my toes and being puzzled, and then I realized that I was naked, lying on my back.
was just like being in a big, bright ball of light.
What are you doing?
And I couldn't move. I was paralyzed, but I could see.
They're poking, prodding me.
The hypnosis sessions reveal a disturbing scene where Jack, Jim, and Charlie are subjected to painful examinations.
They were terrifying. They had some purpose for me.
I was struggling to get up off the table. I felt my conscious mind being drawn into the consciousness of this being.
Jack realizes the nightmare is far from over.
This was not going to end well. I'm going to be dead soon. They're going to gut me like a trout.
April 1989. It's been 12 years since a vacation in the wilderness of Maine turned into an alien abduction. Under regressive hypnosis, some of the men recall a horrifying experience where they are subjected to invasive and otherworldly examinations.
I was unable to say anything, but in my mind I was screaming for help.
The entities were examining me. The first thing I was thinking was that I'm gonna be dead soon. They're gonna gut me like a trout. I couldn't figure out what they were doing. I was just scared to death. They scraped under my arm. They were scraping the inside of my mouth, the inside of my nose, my ears.
But soon, Jack has a new feeling about his captors.
I realized that they were more like scientists. Scientists doing a job.
The hypnosis sessions also begin to unlock the mystery of how the four men got back to shore that night.
The next thing I remembered was just standing on the beach, watching this thing hovering in front of us. I can't believe that we were abducted.
They now know why their roaring campfire was extinguished when they returned. It had burned out during the hours that passed while they were being examined aboard the alien craft.
I have a lot of things that are now explanations to me, but they're also extremely disturbing to me.
Chuck, who remained calm during the whole encounter, believes something different happened that night.
I don't think we were abducted at all. I think that this object sensed that we were too in much chaos and panic to have anything to do with us. And so they left us alone. That's what I think happened. But there is one common thing, and that is we all experienced this UFO.
Is a spiritual freethinker from the San Francisco Bay Area. One day while meditating, he suddenly interrupted.
Out of nowhere, I hear a voice, a very deep voice, saying, "You're going to England." England? I said, "Why England?" And I kept thinking about it, crop circles.
Crop circles have long been linked to UFOs. Many believe that the patterns in the fields are actually messages from extraterrestrial aliens.
How they originate, who they come from, who's making them, that's always a big controversy.
Reuben acts on the mysterious voice's suggestion and travels to England. He heads 100 miles southwest of London to Wiltshire County. There, he joins a tour group to see the area's many crop circles.
I was so at awe with it. I didn't realize they were that huge. And just standing there, I felt so small.
Later that night, they get word a new crop circle has just appeared nearby. They rush to see it. Reuben breaks from the group to send a telepathic message to whoever or whatever created the crop circle.
So I said this to myself, should you appear, do so because you want to, but should you appear, I thank you.
Within minutes, he gets a reply.
I immediately looked at the ball of light, and it was a very bright amber intense color. I got real excited, and then the light descended. Hey!
Reuben calls the others in his group to show them the strange lights.
All of a sudden, the ball of light starts coming up, and then another ball of light, and a third ball of light, 3 of them, almost like a triangle pattern. And one light would fade out, and then it would come back in.
The group is amazed at the scene unfolding before their eyes. Someone with a video camera attempts to record the UFO encounter.
And something deep inside told me they're not going to allow themselves to be filmed. And as soon as he picked up and started to videotape them, beep, beep, they just disappeared. It was a validation that they listened to me. And remember, I put it out there. Should you appear, I thank you.
Reuben traveled a long way on his vacation to England, but ultimately, he encountered something that traveled much, much farther. It's a hot August afternoon, and Denise and Ed Stoner are gearing up for a weekend getaway at the family ranch.
Come on, babe, you ready?
Yeah. We lived just outside of Denver, and we would travel up into the mountains to a town called Buena Vista. We would come up there every weekend in the summer. It was a tradition.
At 5 p.m., the couple is ready to hit the road. Ed sets the odometer to 0, just as he does every trip.
We always use the same roads. I take Highway 285 up through South Park, through Buena Vista, and up to camp.
By 6:30 p.m., they reach the top of Kenosha Pass, a 10,000-foot path that cuts through the mountains.
I looked out across the valley floor. The sky was clear, not a cloud in the sky.
Just then, 2 strange lights appear on the horizon.
What is that?
They were coming across the valley floor towards us. I wasn't sure if it was a plane or what it was because the lights were so bright.
I've never seen a plane like that. Ed!
I was a little bit frightened, and the more I watched them and the closer they got and looked over at Ed and he appeared to be in a daze, the more frightened I was.
What started out as a typical vacation is about to end with a terrifying trip into the unknown. August 1982. On a Colorado highway, Ed and Denise Stoner's weekend getaway has turned into a bizarre experience. 2 blinding lights appear in the sky above them.
These lights were coming very steadily and fairly quickly towards us.
Ed, slow down, slow down!
When that happened, I just blanked out.
Denise and Ed's next memory is driving along the road in the dark, and 3 hours have somehow passed in an instant. They also realize they're now on Trout Creek Pass, a road on the other side of the valley, more than 40 miles away.
We both felt very odd, like we had been interfered with. Something was very wrong. My head felt funny.
Pull over.
The odometer, we should have at least 40 more miles on this.
I remember looking at my odometer right after I passed the city. It was 74 miles. My God, it still says 74 miles, and I'm 40 miles down the road up on Trout Creek Pass.
This does not feel right at all.
I began to question everything. I thought, is this a UFO?
It's stupid, but do you think that could have been like a UFO? Like that could...
No. We were both confused, and we were both anxious. So we said, let's just head for the ranch.
Denise begins to obsess over how they lost 3 hours of time on the road that night. But it's not until years later that she decides to see a renowned UFO researcher who specializes in alien abductions.
Every time you take a deep breath,
Denise is put under regressive hypnosis to recover her memory.
She took me back to that point, and I saw the craft. And under hypnosis, I drew the craft, which looked like two dishes upside down, inverted, with a ring in the center filled with lights. I was taken out of the car by two entities. And I was taken into the craft, and inside a hallway, I remember the entities and was very, very frightened. I saw no emotions whatsoever, not anger, not fear. They weren't questioning anything.
Once inside the craft, she's confronted by one of the alien creatures.
He was speaking, but not with his mouth. Maybe it was a form of telepathy because I heard everything.
This actual recording from Denise's hypnosis session reveals what the aliens have in mind.
I was going to have to prepare me for the future. He had a wire, it looked like a wire. It will keep track of me.
The alien inserts a tracking device into her foot.
And I try to kick him. I can't move. And it is painful. It made me scream.
I realized that I didn't have control of the situation. I wondered if I was going to be taken back, and I had to just allow whatever was going to happen, not fight it. They took me off this metal bed, stood me up. The entity said, "We're taking you back now." I have no idea how I arrived, but I was back in the car and we were sitting on Trout Creek Pass.
Since the abduction, Denise has dedicated herself to UFO research and helping others who have been abducted.
The experience has changed my life and has made me want to move forward and continue to research and continue to look for answers, and I'm going to keep looking for those answers.
Bob and Laurel Gilgee are newlyweds from Phoenix, Arizona. They have a taste for adventure and are taking their first vacation as husband and wife.
Our plan was to go up the California coast and into Washington and then back around.
We were having lots of fun. We stopped at almost every place where there's water, jumped in it, went swimming, slept out under the stars. It was wonderful.
Toward the end of their 3-month trip, they spot something unusual while looking for a campsite near Mount Rainier, Washington.
We see a cardboard sign, and it says UFO Convention. And we go, oh, well, goodness, this is interesting.
Should we do it?
All right. Why not?
Let's do it.
Yeah?
Oh, there they are, there.
When they see the people in attendance, one thing is clear. They don't fit in.
Yeah, why not?
We definitely stood out in the crowd because there was no other people there at all that looked like they were hippies.
Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome.
Upon entering, they are greeted by the convention's leader and welcomed into the group.
And would you join us? We have seats for you.
It is about unification.
In the afternoon, several speakers take to a podium and begin to share their personal experiences with UFOs.
The aliens are here.
Even for hippies, it sounds too far out to be believed.
Bob and I are just sitting there rolling our eyes because we thought that the stories were pretty ridiculous.
Listen, Thanks so much for having us.
By late afternoon, Laurel and Bob are ready to leave.
We ought to hit the road.
They thank the conference leader for the experience and say goodbye.
But you can't leave.
He said, "Oh, you can't leave. We're having a ceremony, and it's for you."
Don't you understand? You've been sent here.
They began having what seemed in my mind almost a counterfeit religious ceremony. There was a man who began speaking in tongues. He seemed almost demon-possessed. We started feeling anxious and uncomfortable.
Then, the leader subjects them to a bizarre ritual to indoctrinate them into the group.
He takes some oil and he rubs oil on our forehead in the form of a cross and is praying over us.
The ceremony ends as mysteriously as it began. Despite the bizarre experience, Bob and Laurel decide to stay in the woods that night. They set up camp rather than drive through the isolated area in the dark.
We sat down, quietly talking to ourselves, saying, "What did we just do?"
This vacation takes yet another strange turn when they hear an unusual sound coming from above.
What the hell is that? It was pitch black. There was no light in the sky except the stars.
We hear this hum. And the hum is kind of like hum. It's constant. It's not changing. It's getting a little bit louder and a little bit louder. And we finally are able to zero in that it's coming from back behind the tree line.
Oh my God! What the hell is that?
This thing came and hovered right over our head. It lit up the ground. I looked at the object and I could see nothing in it except pure light.
And the fear was so intense. What had we walked into? And is this something we can't get out of now?
July 1975. Vacationing newlyweds Bob and Laurel Gilgy stumble upon a UFO convention.
You've been sent here.
What they thought was a joke has turned out to be a terrifying night in the woods when they come face to face with a UFO.
I felt like I wanted to throw up. I started crying, and Bob and I were just holding each other.
But me and my wife were sitting there holding on to each other and trembling and wondering what's happening next.
We immediately thought UFO. There is no other thing it could be. I was convinced it was going to land in our field.
Laurel and Bob wonder if the cultish ritual performed earlier in the day somehow signaled the UFO. With the craft hovering overhead, they believe they're about to be abducted.
Bob said, "No way we're getting on any machine." I remember literally wiping my forehead, as just a physical action to denounce anything that has been placed upon me.
We won't get on your UFO!
And screaming out, "We will not get on your UFO."
Whoever you are, go away! Leave us alone!
It went beyond the tree line on the opposite side of the field.
After it went away, we certainly had a feeling of relief.
To this day, they wonder what they actually saw in the sky and who the strange people they met really were.
Could it be a hoax? Did they have a connection with this light? And we can't put the pieces together.
It's just after dark on a warm July night in Southern California. Melinda Leslie and her friends, Mike and Steve, are planning an unusual road trip. They have a fascination with the supernatural, so they've planned a trip to an area in the San Bernardino Mountains known for UFO sightings.
We were going out with cameras to film. Hopefully, we were going to have sightings of some kind of craft, lights in the sky.
Although Melinda is willing to discuss this matter on camera, Steve and Mike regard this story as deeply private. They agree to share it only with their faces concealed.
We wanted to, see what we could get on video or, maybe a photograph.
We basically go ahead and go to these outings and we take our equipment.
It's geared to entice a UFO and hopefully document a sighting. Cameras, walkie-talkies, a police scanner, and a high-powered searchlight. By 9 p.m., they're finally ready for their nighttime adventure.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, me too.
We're driving over Angeles Crest Highway as a shortcut to get out to this area. We were expecting to get out there by 11, maybe 11:30 at the latest.
I'm gonna get some photos of you with aliens. Both of you.
The shortcut is a dark and winding road that cuts through the mountains. They estimate it should be about a 2-hour drive. It's the perfect stretch of road for Steve to use his light.
I was shining it up in the sky and kind of jokingly saying maybe we can call something down.
Did you see that light?
Within minutes, Steve and Melinda notice odd lights in the sky.
What is that? We were seeing things that we didn't think were planes. They weren't blinking. These were moving around in an erratic manner. Steve had this high-powered light on. It turned off. He couldn't get it back on.
Wait, what happened?
All of a sudden, the police scanner was acting up. And then our walkie-talkies were making noise. In the midst of this happening, there are these 3 sharp, like electrical arc light flashes in the car.
They can't explain it, but the next thing they remember is driving along the winding road. And for some strange reason, they're incredibly thirsty.
After we got through the pass, we came to the 14 freeway. We pulled off right there.
I got a liter of water and drank the entire thing. Steve, I think, also got a liter of water, drank the whole thing. Mike, I think, got their 42-ounce drink. He drank the whole thing. We were just so thirsty. We're like, why are we so thirsty? This is really weird.
Where's everyone?
Melinda wonders why the town is so deserted.
And this is like 11 o'clock at night. There should be a lot of cars. And we're like, how come this town is so dead?
Guys, I just checked the car. It's 2:30.
What?
I just checked
It's 11:30. And so Mike got back in the car, looked at the car clock, and realized how late it was.
It's 2:30.
It said 2:30. And we thought it should be 11 or 11:30. So it was a full 3 hours later. We realized we did have a chunk of time missing.
The 3 are exhausted. They decide to call off their trip and return home. 3 days later, Melinda starts to experience strange memory flashes. July 1990, Southern California. A road trip to look for UFOs has left Melinda Leslie and her 2 friends, Mike and Steve, in a daze. Weeks after the strange experience, Melinda has disturbing memories of what happened that night.
Why are you stopping the car?
What I remember is the car starting to slow down. And I say, Mike, why are you stopping the car? And he says, I'm not, that is.
I believe it was some kind of alien being, some type of gray entity.
I remember seeing two of these beings approach Steve's car door. They reach in and they like stare in his face, and Steve slumps over. They then proceed to get him out of the car.
Steve! Come back, Steve! Steve! No!
Mike's car door opens, but he gets out of the car on his own.
Mike, where are you going? Come back!
Next thing I know, the hatchback is open and I am floated out the back of the car, on my back.
Once they're outside the car, the aliens lead them away.
We walked around a curve and we saw it was some kind of a ship that was in the middle of the road.
There was a ramp coming down to the road, and we remembered actually being walked up this ramp onto the craft.
Melinda recalls stepping on board the alien craft and into a living nightmare.
Steve is walked over to like a reclining chair. They put this headset thing on him, and I remember Steve just sitting in this chair, staring straight ahead.
Mike, what are they doing?
Mike is subjected to painful tests, but they save the most disturbing procedure for Melinda.
They had a needle, maybe some kind of tube. I didn't exactly see what was happening. I believe that they were taking eggs from her ovum.
After the medical exam, the three friends are let out of the craft.
We're walked back to the car, and it's all of a sudden like they were placing mannequins, like they were moving us into position. And they put the light back in Steve's hands. They moved us back in the same position of when we were stopped.
The aliens seem intent on leaving their human subjects exactly as they found them, with no memory of the experience. But those memories ultimately bubble to the surface. The three friends are now convinced UFOs exist.
There's nothing like having your own personal experience, your own sighting, your own abduction, to convince you of the reality of the subject.
The Cardenas family is heading out on a road trip to visit relatives in Monterrey, Mexico. From their home in Pasco, Washington, it's a 2,000-mile trip that will take 2 or 3 days.
I had my wife with me and my two sons. Jesus, he's the oldest, and then Jonathan, he's the youngest one.
It's like a 2.5 day trip, so, you know, just as a kid, I remember just falling asleep most of the time.
It's a long trip from here all the way to Texas, and it was boring.
On the second night, the family is driving along a remote highway in southwest Texas, an area known for UFO activity.
We're in complete darkness. There's no light, just the moonlight, and then besides that moonlight, a bunch of little stars, and then another big, bright light in the sky.
It wasn't just a star. It was something else. It seems like it was following us. It was getting closer and closer.
When Jesus shows his mother Patricia, she immediately grabs her video camera.
I'm crazy because I want to know what it is, this light.
What you see here is Patricia's actual home video footage.
It got pretty hectic. Everybody was trying to move. I'm trying to look at the light. My brother's trying to look into the camera, trying to see the light.
We told my dad to pull over so we can step out of the car.
Juan is distracted by strong winds that are making it difficult to drive. He doesn't want to stop the car on this desolate stretch of road, but finally pulls over.
When I stopped, there was no more wind. No noise, nothing. It was just calm. I don't know what it was, but it was something weird.
Patricia now tries to get a better shot, but the picture still seems shaky.
I was trying to look into the screen of the camera, you know, and then my mom was like, stop moving, quit moving, you're moving it. And I was like, I'm not moving it, look, I'm not moving it.
Looks like it's...
They realize it's not the camera, but the light that is moving so erratically across the sky. As they watch in disbelief, the light begins to move in a way that no one expects. The Cardenas family is on a 2,000-mile road trip from Washington State to Mexico. They are passing through the Texas desert when they notice a strange light in the sky. They pull over to videotape it.
It starts off as like a little circle, and then it just starts going up and down, starts zigzagging all over, and then it would focus for a minute, it'd stay in the center. It'd emit like different colors out of it, like from blue and red. Then it would turn into like a little rocket type of, like, you know, like a rocket ship sort of shape. So it was something odd. I don't know, it was something odd.
But Juan has an uneasy feeling.
After a couple of minutes, I go, I don't like this. I was telling myself, I don't like this. Well, that's when I told him that, you know what, just get back inside and we're leaving.
The light seems to follow the car for a time.
Still there.
Then inexplicably vanishes. But the brief experience changed their lives and made them believers.
I didn't believe in UFOs, but, you know, it happened to me.
Yeah, I'm convinced it was a UFO. Honestly, I am.
And they have the proof and a vacation video that they'll never be able to top. So next time you're traveling, remember to keep your eyes on the stars, because UFOs just might crash your vacation.